The following podcast is an RMG Media production.
Tickets are on sale now. I'm so excited. Get ready to unleash your potential, ignite your business, and connect with trailblazers. The Renaissance Women's Summit is back on February 24th in Nashville, Tennessee. Our summit is so much more than just a gathering of successful women. It is a powerful movement that aims to uplift and empower all women. Our highly anticipated third annual conference is a value-packed one-day event featuring unparalleled networking opportunities, enlightening panels, interactive workshops, and inspiring keynotes led by top-notch entrepreneurs and female leaders. You'll acquire the indispensable knowledge and insights needed to become a true Renaissance woman in the business world. Tickets are on sale now. You can get them at therenaissancewomensummit.com. We'll see you there. Welcome to the Renaissance Podcast, a podcast for Renaissance women
and men
who want to create a modern-day Renaissance in their life and business.
We interview some of the most successful entrepreneurs and share their unique stories.
Are you ready to create your Renaissance? Welcome to the show, Bo.
Thanks for having me.
It's such a treat to have you on. I'm a big fan. Been a fan for many years.
Awesome.
Saw Need to Breathe live when you guys opened for Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Major moment in my life.
That's iconic.
Huge Swiftie over here. So This is really cool. But you are such an interesting person. I feel like such a true artist, and you've just really transformed yourself in the last couple of years. And I'd love for you to just share with our audience a little bit about that kind of artistic transformation. And, you know, a big theme on this show is that it's always okay to recreate yourself, no matter how old you are, no matter kind of what you're going through, no matter what career path you're in. I think that's what life is all about. And I just feel like you're the perfect person to kind of speak on that.
That's we're diving right in there.
We're jumping right on in.
Yeah. I think it wasn't necessarily on purpose. I think it was more of a time to pivot sort of thing. I'm getting up there in age, and I think about 5 years ago or so, I started realizing that life was kind of catching up with me, and my routines and my habits and coping mechanisms and all that were just kind of taking over. And so I wasn't in control of that, wasn't managing it well. And I knew I needed to do some deep work. I didn't at first. I just had some mentors kind of say, hey, maybe try this thing or that thing. And I started getting into the counseling world a little bit, dipped my toes in. And then I went to a place called Onsite, and was just life-changing. Just completely opened my eyes to a whole new just way of living. And, you know, it caused me to ask a lot of questions. And so it started there, and just realizing that I had a lot of childhood trauma and stuff that I needed to deal with that I wasn't going to be able to run away from or deal with while I was on the road. And I was with Need to Breathe for 20 years. And, you know, it's an amazing journey, and loved, you know, all the places we got to go and all the things we got to do. And it was just a crazy good experience. But it's also not a great place to become healthy if you're in the middle of kind of a midlife crisis or a breakdown, really. So I think that started the pivot, not knowing. I was just digging and kind of learned, you know, a lot about myself, a lot about my childhood and the things that I needed to do to kind of begin the healing process.
So with Onsite, you know, I think I've heard you speak in other interviews about that experience. Did you go into that, you know, knowing that you would unpack kind of the childhood trauma, or what did you go into it expecting?
I went into it completely blind, just like I did not know. I was scared to death to go, in all honesty. And I went kind of as, honestly, a cover to buy me some time because of the alcoholism that I was dealing with, and started to raise my hand, but didn't really understand, you know, the depths that it had, you know, in my life, or the grip that it had on my life. I kind of went just to buy some time, honestly, just like, okay, this would be a good thing. I can learn some things and maybe get that under control. so no, I was completely unaware of what I was gonna, uh, you know, kind of find under the rug, I guess.
Yeah. I can't even imagine kind of going through something like that and then just kind of having this sort of emotional roller coaster of going back into your past. I feel like so many people struggle with going back, right? You don't want to live in the past. You don't want to but we need to, right?
Mm-hmm.
To kind of get through our current situation. And you went through a really horrific thing when you were 6 years old. What is kind of some of the revelations you've gone through since re-experiencing those emotions?
Yeah, it's been the gamut, the whole gamut. And I think the first time I went, I kind of recognized. So I went to onsite 3 times, but the first time I went, I kind of recognized that there was something there. And then through the counseling, the next 2 to 3 years, was beginning to unpack those things. And a year ago, I came out and said that I was a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and did some work with the Davis House, and they were connected as far as me telling my story, because it's a tough thing to do, and at the same time you want to take it lightly, and having partners there that can kind of help coach me through that, because you don't want to get re-victimized or re-traumatized by the stuff. And so they were super helpful in kind of walking me through that and navigating that area. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind as far as that goes. It's really been cool though, and helping me find my voice. It's a big part of. I knew I had to do that before I could sing again, before I could show my face on Instagram again. I knew that there was just a lot of healing that needed to happen, just to kind of reintegrate, with the world, So yeah, I don't know if that answers what you're asking.
So over the 20 years of being with Need to Breathe, I mean, was there always kind of a feeling of loss within yourself, or were you just masking that with the alcoholism?
I mean, masking it with almost anything, really.
Yeah.
And I knew that, from my experiences, there was 3 different abusers, and it's something that, for any survivor, there's always a reason to protect, the abuser, and that's not a good thing. That's something that you were trying to and what I'm doing with the Davis House now, is to help people come out and say it, because you want to stop the cycle.
Right.
And so it's a really difficult thing to announce that, and all the dominoes that can fall post that. But yeah, there was any way to numb or black it out or whatever. And I think a survivor gets really good at just going and shutting it off. And I think I would tell people this story, and it's, I didn't realize until I was probably 35 or 36 the difference between, the terminology of rape or molestation or harassment or any of that. Just anytime the subject came up, just clicked out completely.
Wow.
And so that's how I was coping. There's chunks of my life that I don't remember very well. And so whether it was alcohol or just, promiscuity or just, telling yourself how to just click it off.
Wow. So coming to the end of Need to Breathe, what was going through your head of being I gotta leave?
No, I mean, I was in a band with my brother, and we did it for a long time. And so, there's ups and downs there, obviously. And so I didn't really have my eye set on this is not going to work out. It was more it kind of threw a chink,
Right.
in the system, and me learning how to deal with it. You kind of learn that in gradual stages. So you kind of, for me, someone who I being a victim of something, when you're growing out of that and trying to heal from that, you kind of have to be my counselor would say, the Heisman hand up and just kind of like keep everything at a distance because, I didn't know enough to be able to handle those situations. And so I think, that makes things tough in a relationship when all of a sudden things begin to be different and there's different boundaries, there's different expectations and all that stuff. And so, when you're in a band for 20 years and all of a sudden, behavior is different and expectations are different, it can be tricky.
Yeah, definitely. And then just navigating the family side of things is, gosh, that's tough. I mean, yeah, like Sydney said, we're brother and sister, and I feel like we go through that a lot where it's like, we have to almost completely separate that we are family because we have to make business decisions. Right. And that can be very tough because there'll be a lot of arguments. And then it's also like, well, mom and dad are in town, so we got to do dinner together, and
exactly
go through that. And that becomes a very tough thing to navigate.
For sure.
What's your relationship with Bear like now?
There's room for some change. I think we needed time. I think there's love there. There's still love there. And right now he's doing his thing. He's full tilt with his Water Woods project, and Need to Breathe is continuing to play at a breakneck speed for my my lifestyle these days. And so we don't get to talk as much as we like. But I know that time is going to help that. Yeah. And the season that we're in right now, we're busy doing our things, and we're also immediately to our kids. Yeah. He's got 3 kids. So yeah, I think in time, that relationship will be much better.
Yeah. And you have 2 kids?
I do.
Yeah. How old are they?
So Elin is my oldest. He's 11, and Foster's 8.
And which one was in the music video recently?
That was Foster.
Oh, man. Cuts to the core of that video.
That's a very impactful moment to, be talking about yourself, but then to be able to work your son into it as well. And that's a very unique take on it.
Yeah. Tell us about that experience and how, because I know you directed that video, produced it.
Yeah.
So tell us about kind of your vision for that and, just why you were like, this is so important for my son to essentially play you in the video. Yeah.
Ultimately, I feel like it's remembering, who my audience is. And, I call the project Coy Roy, and I love that, it's from a line from Paul Simon, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover.
Best song.
So good.
Classic.
Yeah. But after he says that, he said, just get yourself free. And I love that, and that's a big part of what this thing is about. And at the same time, the line that comes before it is that you don't need to be Coy Roy. And so just remembering that my identity is not just the music or just the art. Those are things that I do that come from me, that I create, but that's not my sole identity. And so, remembering who my audience is and just trying not to, Need to Breathe was a huge, successful machine, and so going from that and doing my own thing in my basement and writing a song and producing it, mixing it, and doing so much of the work myself, kind of going, but this is, I don't need this to be about competition.
Right.
It's just who the audience is very important to me. And so me telling my story to essentially my 6-year-old self, who's my son now, it's such a monumental thing for me, or important thing for me, to be able to show them, how to work through these traumas. You got to face it. And I say that in the song, as sooner or later, you're going to have to face the truth. And so, trying to lead by example in that way. And just, kind of reconnecting with the inner child as much as possible. So at the end of the song, you can kind of hear them cheering. It's my boys, clapping at the end of the song. And it just reminds me of what it's all about.
Have you found that your passion is completely reignited, being in the basement, doing the things that were probably very similar to Need to Breathe 20 years ago before y'all really hit it off and you were just finding your tune, finding your groove?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I lost that
Right.
towards the end. You know, I would have songs I was really passionate about or things that but it was very few and far between.
Right.
And I wasn't enjoying, being on the stage. I felt like it was at that point, it's just a grind.
Right.
And, so I kind of sensed, a lot of apathy happening. And I knew that was one of the things that kind of catapulted, needing to make a change.
Right.
It's just like, this is too good for me not to be enjoying. And so noticing that,
Yeah.
and kind of, I guess like early retirement, that was kind of,
Right.
it's like,
That's such a, I want to talk about it. I don't really know how to phrase the question, but you were like living the dream, quote unquote. You were playing on stage with Taylor Swift, like crazy things. How the hell did you come to terms with realizing this isn't right? And how could you explain that to people? Because I'm sure the mental doubt of being like, I gotta be grateful for what I'm doing. And people are gonna sit there and say, you're insane for not loving this, or you're insane for complaining. You have it all, kind of thing. How do you justify it?
It feels
and
like a
talk
lot of
about
like
it?
emotional maturity
Yeah.
happened because you would have to have that in order to step away from
yeah,
something.
no, it was the biggest decision I had ever made in my life. And it didn't come lightly.
Yeah.
It was excruciating. The whole process of it was, it's kind of like you go through all the phases of grief and bargaining and is this the right thing? And so, I took a lot of time with it.
Yeah.
And just got to a place where I knew that there was something better for me, apart from that. And one of the moments that was like kind of proved it to me, which was just crazy. But I've told this story before, but I got to coach my kids' basketball teams, and so that in itself is just amazing.
Yeah.
But my oldest son, he has some like sensory processing stuff, and so loud noises and all this stuff can kind of get him this fire alarm brain going. And so his first game after we'd done all the practices, he didn't want to go out there and play. And
Oh, wow.
he goes out in the court and then he just panics and he cries and he comes running off the court. And so the rest of the season, I'm trying to, encourage him to play, and then I'm trying to bribe him and do all this stuff. But we just stuck with it. As long as he was doing practice, that was good. And then the next season he asked me to play or to coach. And I said, well, we got to make a deal. And so first game he gets out there and he scores a bucket, and then he's dancing all the way across the court. And it was not just the, proud dad because he made a bucket, but seeing him overcome something, I think is like the biggest thrill for a parent, is to see how tough something can be and then be able to face it and see the victory on the other side of it. And so, I was just bawling. But then after the game, we're riding in the car together and he's singing A Million Dreams, at the top of his lungs, but he's singing dead at me in the rearview mirror. And that joy and that peace was like, there was nothing compared to that. And I just knew that there's, no matter how big the band got or what successes we had, there's nothing that can touch that.
Right.
Doesn't mean I don't love music or don't have really fond memories. And Red Rocks is such a monumental, like amazing, iconic place to play and have incredible memories there. But that it showed me that there's a lot more to this life than this thing that I helped build for 20 years, a majority of my life. I just knew that there's bigger things out there.
Yeah.
And what a lesson to your kids too, just to see their dad, like, total rock star, of course, but doing a really hard thing and knowing sometimes in life you have to take those really hard risks to reap a really beautiful reward. And the reward is, like you said, when you walked in here, like, I don't have deadlines. I can just be and I can just create. And like, I just think that that's so inspiring, especially being a new mom. I'm like, that's it, you know?
Well, and I probably would say, you know, like I can be reckless, you know, I can have reckless behavior and you know, want to be crazy and all that stuff. But as far as taking a risk, as far as my art or a business or something like that, I was more calculated. I was, you know, the perfectionist and needing to make sure everything was right. Spend way too much time overthinking stuff. And I still have a tendency to do that now. But from that experience of walking away, it's gotten easier and easier to be able to take risk or go, okay, we're going to play this show. And I've only got 2 songs prepared, but I got a place for 60 minutes and just going, let's do it, you know? And so it's helped me a lot to be able to get out of that perfectionism and the anxiety of everything having to be just right. You know, those thoughts still creep in. You still want to be excellent, but you know, being able to take a risk is huge. I feel like in being authentic with your art.
Right.
And also, like, I think moving to Nashville is sometimes really hard for artists because you can, with the music industry, you just can get put into that box. And I know you're like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I moved here to do music and now I'm running a social media agency. But I, you know, was a very artistic, I was just a songwriter and it was just art. It was art. It was art. And then moving to Nashville, it was like, you have to use these 4 chords. If you want to be a female musician in this industry, you have to write music like this. It has to, the verse, the chorus, the bridge, it had to flow with that. And I was like, oh man, as a creative, it just felt so against my bones. Like it was just not, you know, the way that I think art should be. And that's no disrespect to, you know, musicians in Nashville that are kind of following that trajectory. But can you speak on that at all?
Yeah. I mean, I am so uncomfortable in those situations. Like I've lived here for about 6 years and I've not really done a songwriting. I did 1 or 2 with my brother, with some other people, but I can't sit in a room and just be like, okay, let's
follow
pump
this
out a song.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, some guys are incredible at it. They're just absolutely, they can tap into a certain creativity in that way. It's difficult for me to do that. I think my mind immediately goes to, you know, now I'm trying to figure out a formula or a math problem and I can't be removed from myself and just let it flow. So I've always wanted to be able to do that, you know, like, okay, that's cool. Let's sit down and do a song in 3 or 4 hours and go to lunch and do another one. And you know, I admire the people who can do that, but it's uncomfortable for me.
Yeah. What is sort of your creative process? And you maybe are like, I don't have one, but do you, like when how do ideas come to you? Like, tell us about that process.
You know, yeah, it's weird. It's so difficult to put into terms, but I think I've always said that, you know, an artist's real job is to pay attention, and you know, kind of appreciate things. Just be very observant, and you know, and then you ask those questions. What is that? How does that apply to me? What is that telling me, or what does that make me feel? And just processing those emotions about the things that you're experiencing, and you know, I think beauty is a big part of my, you know, just inspiration. Yeah, and so there's all kinds of, you know, beauty in life, whether it's visual, which is a big part of what I do as well. But those things can just trigger emotions that tap into a new place. And when I'm in that new place, then everything sounds good. Everything feels good. Everything feels like it just comes naturally. It doesn't feel like you're trying to make music. It feels like, oh, this is just, you know, an outpouring of what's going on inside. And so that's typically the place I start, you know. I try all the things, you know. I've got the voice memo things that are constant. I take notes and write lyric ideas down, but I just put it out there as a shotgun and know that if I'm just putting it out there, eventually those things kind of come together. And it's crazy how art always finds a way to have the meaning and the story behind it. That it's like, man, I started writing that song 2 years ago, and now it's coming to fruition now, and what it means and all this stuff is like, I knew that, but I didn't know how to articulate it then. And so over time, if you allow the process to take its time, I feel like it kind of comes together with multiple levels of meaning.
Right.
And that just happens naturally.
It is so interesting how taking that break, I mean, in your case, you went through a lot of self-discovery, but, just like whether it be burnout or going through it and, really dealing with your trauma head on, can make the biggest impact in the creative process and just your creativity in general. Like you gotta step away. And I think that's where you do the most learning. In my case, I did that with videography, and I talk about it literally every single episode. People are like, Walker, I'm tired of your damn burnout story. But for me, it was like the best thing. I took a year off from doing video stuff, and it was as soon as I started up again, I rediscovered my passion for it. And I swear I did more learning. I became more capable of, just like editing and framing and all of these different things that I even realized I knew before. Yeah. It was a weird like transition, like something flipped in my brain completely. And I was like, oh, you're going all in on this and you really love it, and just keep going because this works. Yeah. It was really fun. It's a weird thing.
Yeah. And like I said, like the job is the slowing down, paying attention and observing. And I think if you don't give yourself time to do that or to live life, and, not just be producing, not just be, I think that's a huge part of the creative process that gets neglected sometimes, especially, in this kind of cutthroat breakneck speed, that we have to do, and all the rules, in the music thing, it's like when the song comes out, you got to have another song lined up, and you got to have this video, and you got to have this, and you don't give yourself time. Right. You're just doing. And that old phrase here, we're human beings, not human doings.
Yeah.
And so taking time for that is so incredibly important. And then, like you said, it comes out. It feels natural. Doesn't feel like you're forcing something.
Yeah.
When you give that kind of time.
Yeah, and you got to have this new appreciation as well to the work that you're doing. I mean, you're managing it all. You're your own booking agent, producer, like everything. I heard you in another interview talking about how you're, doing the drum kits on the keyboard or whatever, and you're doing it all. So that has to spark a new appreciation or reignite that passion just for like you're doing it from start to finish. That's an empowering thing.
Yeah, for sure. And the questions in your head are like, sometimes, am I good enough at this? Or I need to get actual real musicians to do this. And fortunately, I have cool enough friends who are like, no, dude, that's the spirit of it. And so, I think being in that kind of childlike, spirit of creativity, nobody does it better than kids. When they paint something, they just go, that's awesome. Let me pick this color. That's awesome. And it's like everything is just, coming out from them. Right. And there's no judgment. There's just fun. And that's that part of the creativity is I picked up a lot of that from my boys for sure.
Wow. What advice would you give to someone kind of just getting started in their music career?
That's a tough one. We used to always say, when people would ask us, well, what do I do? And the kind of the joke answer, but I think it's a real thing too. But it's like, if you can do anything else to make a living, then do that. But if this is something that it's just a burning desire, then just dive in, don't be too hard on yourself. Know that each song is going to be something that's going to get better over time, and you're not trying to write a masterpiece, or sign the record deal. You're just trying to get better each time. You're trying to learn and soak it up and enjoy it. And so, it's cliche to say, well, just trust your gut and trust yourself and don't criticize yourself too much. and it's really hard to do that. But if I could go back, I would be that way, more to myself, more gracious to myself, to be like, yeah, this is a pretty good song. I'm gonna write a better one. I'm gonna write another one, and then I'm gonna write another one.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But yeah, unless it's something that's just a burning desire that you cannot shake, then it's a tough sled.
Yeah. And do scary things, like do things that scare you. That's just, I feel like, been such a theme throughout your whole career, is like, take that step.
Yeah. And classically, like, failure is a good thing. Mistakes are good things. Those are the things that teach us. Those are things we learn from, and ultimately make you resilient, and that's if you can be resilient, you're going to be successful. I think that's something that Need to Breathe did really well. I think we had a lot of tough years, but we were just like, nope, we're going to keep going. And so you learn from your mistakes, you learn from hardships. So whenever those things happen, just know that's all a part of it.
Okay, so I want to know about the new song, Doing the Best I Can.
Yeah.
Tell us about this. This is the upcoming single?
It came out a couple months ago.
Okay, current single.
I feel like that's my story. It's somewhat making excuses. I think it's kind of dealing with alcoholism, or the coping mechanisms. I'm also, extremely dyslexic and ADD, and so I'm kind of there. I'm in this kind of confusion, and I feel like in the process of this healing journey, just realizing my shortcomings, but also knowing that deep down in my heart, where my heart's at, where my intentions are. And I think that's what you want anyone to see eventually, is not see you for the areas that you've failed, or past mistakes, or even in the current situation you might be in where you're struggling, but to see your heart. So to be seen, to be heard is kind of what the song is about. It's kind of that yearning of, like, just hang with me just a little bit longer. We're going to get this figured out, but I understand, and I recognize that my system's jammed, and that there's things I need to work on.
Mm. Who are your biggest musical inspirations? I know we have Paul Simon for sure.
Yeah.
But is there anyone current that you're really listening to right now?
I'm a big fan of Bon Iver. Any bands that take chances melodically. I like big landscape stuff. I like cinematic stuff. I love playful, fun things, and so I think that's been a trend in a lot of my music, that there's rhythms and things that feel playful, even though the material might be something that's like, whoa, this is
heavy.
It's a heavy thing. And so just the nuances of how to mechanically work through this stuff as it's coming at you. So I like eclectic kind of music. And I think, Peter Gabriel is another one that comes to mind. I love, Coldplay. I just think that the things that they've done rhythmically, and melodically, just as far as a playfulness and I don't know.
Yeah.
Exploratory sort of thing. They craft songs really well, too, with just it being catchy and being sing-alongable. I guess that's the word. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, they can connect, on a big, wide, general level, while they're still taking massive chances. And each record is completely different than the last record, and so I just appreciate their artistry.
Yeah, I'm right here. It's so fun. It's such an energetic song, and then it really builds like halfway through, and you're just like jamming in your car, and it's like so fun. But you're right. The topic of it is it's very introspective. It's very kind of heavier topic, but it's just got so much meaning, and it really makes you think about your life and kind of your past. And I don't know. I love that your music has that way of doing that, just
When
making you really be retrospective.
When I first heard it, I was like, oh, this is great. And then hearing you tell the story and connecting it all through, I felt a big sense of calmness through it. And it made me feel calm to know what you were talking about, but then also to just embrace change and everything that you have in your life. It's okay to accept that. And I would imagine that was kind of the intent behind the song in a way. And it was a very unique thing to go into it without really knowing the story, listen to it and be like, oh, this is a really, really great jam. It's deep and it's like, it is sort of cinematic in a way. It makes you feel a lot. But then hearing the story, I was like, this is a beautiful arc to know this.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And like I said, if you allow yourself to take the time, then the words will come out in that sort of way. And I think when I first started writing the song, I was looking in the mirror and thinking, I've fallen off the face of the planet. Like I had not posted anything on social media for, almost 2 years and just I just disappeared, and so that was a weird feeling. And so I started writing the song in front of the mirror, and that took me down a certain path,
Right.
And it's kind of like, and for a while, not talking to the band, we weren't speaking terms. And so I'm kind of like, well, I'm right here, I'm still here.
I'm still here, guys.
But then, what was ultimately the story, of me revisiting, and facing this trauma is that there's also a joy in the fact that I'm still here. Because, it got dark. It got really heavy. And for a while, I wasn't sure, and it just the mental health and the place I was at was so dark. So there's a bit of like rejoicing in the song too, that I'm still here.
Wow.
So yeah, I love when songs can have a lot of different meanings, a lot of different levels, because somebody can get in and
no matter where you are, it kind of meets you where you're at a little bit.
It's like applicable to anyone and their feelings.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Thank you so much for being on our show. You are amazing. I'd love for you to share with our audience just where they can get the music, get the art, check out the new songs, follow you on social media, everything.
Yes. So the art is at BoRinehartStudios.com. And yeah, there's new art that's coming there. I've been doing some commissions lately and now some new art's about to come out.
It's beautiful.
Thank you very much.
So beautiful.
Thank you. I'll be playing at the Button Ball with the Davis House on the 26th. So just right around the corner.
August?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
We'll put that in the notes.
I played there last year and just did one song. This time I'll do a few more and I'll have, my buddies up there help me out.
That's great.
And yeah, and the music is Coy Roy, CoyRoy. Oh, yeah.
We love a good manager.
Yes. I'm playing the Franklin Theater on September 9th, which is my first like official headline show. So
that's so exciting.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's an awesome venue.
Tickets still available?
They are. Yep.
Where can they go and buy those?
I think through Franklin Theater
Okay.
is the easiest way.
Perfect. Well, we will link all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on our show. You are such an amazing person. Our audience is just going to be so excited to listen to this. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.